We are here, podcast number 3, with none other than Paul Conti,
Hey guys.
an incredible entrepreneur, realtor, office manager of a Berkshire Hathaway in Santa Ana, California, where he's doing deals left and right, doing marketing that you've never seen before on Instagram. He's all over the place. This guy is killing it, and we're about to interview him and hear his story about how he is so great. Paul Conti, I thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you, Dusty. I really appreciate being here, and thank you to your whole team. It's really an honor to be part of your podcast, and especially one of your early guests.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah. So, Paul, I want to get right into it. And first, I want to start off by asking you you're a realtor and an office manager, right? Yeah. What made you first become a realtor to begin with?
You know, it's really interesting. I grew up with my family having a grocery business. Literally, when I was 10 years old, they mortgaged their little 3-bedroom house in Downey, and they bought a little corner grocery market in South Central LA. So right in the barrio, really, quite honestly, just west of Huntington Park. We lived like about 8 miles away in Downey, and I speak Spanish. My parents are from Argentina, so it really helping in that area because it was all Spanish speaking. So it was great. It was working class, and I really got a good feel for. I honestly, I got a good feel for this working class kind of work ethic.
Yeah.
And my parents slaved there, and my brother and I, who's 4 years younger than me, we were there every day, 7 days a week. 8 a.m. till 9 p.m., weekends, weekdays.
Yeah.
And I had to be behind the counter, you know.
Was that your choice or your parents made you do that?
Parents made me do it all the way. And my brother at 6, 7 years old, he'd work a little. He was more watching TV in the back room. And, you know, I would do that a little too, but I was mostly behind the counter. And it was to the point where when we were in school and the teacher would say, okay, tomorrow's a day off because of Saint whatever, because I went to Catholic school.
Yeah.
You know, they had us in a private school in Downey. And the teacher would say, tomorrow's a day off for, you know, the saint of whatever. All the kids would cheer, and I'd be bummed. I'd be disappointed because that meant I had to go right back to work. You know, any day that I wasn't in school, weekend or weekday, it was at the market. So it sucked those early years, but it was something that I look back on. My brother and I look back on, and we're so appreciative of that experience. And after 3 years, they leveraged that little corner grocery market into a bigger sized market down the street. And that whole South Central area at that time, we're talking like the 1980s or so. I mean, we were little kids, and all during that time, there were no big supermarkets. There were no Ralphs or Vons or Albertsons. So our market became the biggest grocery market for that area. And our competitors a few miles away were mom and pops like ours.
Really?
Yeah, and they were just 5,000, 6,000 square foot markets. You know, nothing huge like our big supermarkets, you know, of today. Yeah. And it was the right time to work in that region because again there were no big competitors that we had to deal with. So I really honestly developed a work ethic from those early years, those formative years. I always knew one way or another I wanted to be in business for myself like my parents were.
Yes.
One thing I did decide though is I didn't want to be surrounded by 4 walls like they were, you know. I mean, I just didn't want to be locked into 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week. I mean, we didn't even start taking vacations until I was maybe 15, 16 years old. Only then were we able to take 3 or 4 days off at a time. And we always had to be back by the weekend because those were the busiest times.
Yeah.
And we had, by that point with the larger market, we had a manager of the meat market, the meat department, a manager for the produce department, a general manager. So it was pretty organized, but we still had to be there, especially on the weekends. And so I knew I wanted something where I had flexibility with my time, flexibility with where I am. And a good friend of my dad's was a real estate agent. And when I was 21, I got my license.
Doesn't everybody have a friend in real estate?
I know, exactly. Everyone knows someone in real estate. And this guy said, you know, come work for us. So this was a company called Galindo Realty. It's not in business anymore. It was in the Bell, Huntington Park area. Yep. And in fact, some of the realtors in our company who've been around for 15, 20 years, they remember a lot of those people who worked at that company. And, you know, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But a few leads were thrown my way. I did some floor time, which isn't popular anymore. But when people would call in on an ad for a property, you're answering the phone, and it's kind of like an open house, but over the phone. So they're coming to you. So I got a few first transactions doing that, and I was going to school at Long Beach State and
so
getting a marketing degree.
In that marketing degree, you use it obviously for your real estate business.
Oh,
now.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that marketing degree totally came in handy. I mean, there's really, I don't want to say college is a waste of time, but I actually did learn some good things in college. Marketing did help to a degree. I learned a lot about advertising and consumer promotion. Actually, to be honest, college even took me away from real estate. As soon as I graduated, I went to work in advertising because we were in a recession at that time. I as much as I loved real estate and I managed to sell a few homes, I didn't know really if that was what I wanted to do full time. And I really got excited about advertising because of some classes I took in college. And so I started working at a little ad agency in Huntington Beach. And but it was a job. See, again, I was back to being an employee. Like I was doing part-time while I was in school, because I was working in real estate. I was working at golf and stuff where they filmed the original Karate Kid. Yeah. I grew up in Downey, so I was working there, and that was fun. Saturday nights, the little
cars,
indie bumper cars. Yeah,
Go-karts,
I was the Saturday night supervisor, so it was a lot of fun. We kicked off a lot of drunks, off the cars, but so it was a paycheck. So here I was, working for a paycheck again at a little ad agency, and I just got back into real estate after a few years because I realized I wanted to be in business for myself.
For that ad agency, what were you advertising? What was your main thing?
For being a small firm, they had a really diversified roster. I got to say, most little ad agencies just work for one or two types of clients. We worked for a video game company at the time called Interplay Productions. That was down in Irvine. And some other people in the downstairs of this ad agency worked on the shopping mall account. And First American, actually, of all things, our company that we are affiliated with a lot, First American Home Warranty and Title, that was one of our clients. We were doing annual reports for them.
So you guys are the reason that they are so big now.
I'd like to say we were part of that. I was proofreading the text for their annual reports, and I was more on the management side than on the creative side.
Yeah.
But
you've had some management skills before you're a manager now too.
Absolutely. It really helped with management. It helped with management skills. It helped with marketing. And then after doing that for a couple years, I realized, it just sharpened my desire to be in business for myself.
Got it. So out of the ad agency, the golf and stuff, and the grocery store, you were able to develop some skills needed to how to run a business, how to do that, how to talk to people, I'm assuming, because in all those businesses, you're talking to people. Right?
Absolutely. You know what? That's probably the biggest part of it, Dusty, is interpersonal communications, honestly.
Yeah.
I did have to meet with clients a lot in the ad agency. And, of course, client relations and working at golf and stuff, whether they were Saturday night drunks or just families on Sunday with their little kids, you had to work with all kinds of personalities. And I would say that it really sharpened my interpersonal skills.
Gotcha.
Those jobs.
And so all those skills lead you on to becoming a realtor, bring you back into the business. What brought you back?
Yeah. So I had an experience where two guys sold a property for my dad. He had a commercial property around the area of the grocery store where after my parents retired, they owned a few properties around there. So this team of young guys in their 20s or so, I was their age too. They sold a property for my dad, and I talked to them, and they said, hey, if you're going to be in real estate, why don't you come into commercial real estate? This is the sexy, hot part of real estate. And we're working in this team, Grubb & Ellis, that now has changed its name a little bit, but it's still a big commercial company. They were up in Westwood, and they, even though they grew up in my area, they said, come up here. This is the exciting place to be. It's fun, and you'll make a lot of money. So,
was it exciting?
It was exciting, but I wasn't making jack financially. I wasn't earning anything. Commercial real estate, when you're doing only commercial, not like apartment buildings mixed with residential, when you're just doing shopping centers and that kind of stuff, which they were, it's few and far between until you get those checks. So I was basically like a runner. I was kind of their gopher and their cold calling guy on the phone with the big shopping center investor directory, calling investors, which is great. I learned a lot about cold calling. I was calling investors and asking, hey, I was telling them we have a small shopping center for sale. I'll send you all the setup information. Let me email it to you. By the way, what do you guys have that you're selling that maybe you would want to liquidate in order to free up investment capital to buy one of these? So we try to get listings by offering them properties for sale. They're always, we got a lot of meetings, and here and there we were making money, but I'm telling you, man, it took so long. One thing I'll never forget was Memorial Day weekend. I was there for about a year and a half. I was coming down the elevator. I was probably the last one to leave the office Friday night, Memorial Day weekend, and I did not have enough gas for my car, enough money to buy gas for my car and get through the weekend, a 3-day weekend. And I got into the elevator shuts. We were like on the 9th floor of this building in Westwood, and I looked down in the corner of the elevator and there was a $100 bill. And I just thought, oh my God. So I just snatched it up, and I'm just thinking, as soon as the doors open, is someone gonna, say, hey, I dropped 100 here. The doors open, there's nobody there in the lobby. I just took off and went to my car, and I'm just like, thank you, God, for giving me enough money to get through the weekend. I'm telling you, it was that bad, Wow. I had a little 500, not even 500 square foot apartment, little studio, and it was a fun area. My friends would come up from this area where I grew up, the Long Beach, Orange County area, and they would hang out and sleep on the floor of my little studio apartment, and we'd party in Hollywood. It was just a fun thing to do. I mean, really budget conscious, economical partying, but it was fun, and I learned a lot about cold calling and more about interpersonal skills. And another thing I learned was how to analyze a commercial investment, how to do gross operating income minus your expenses, projected property taxes. I learned about pro forma rents, and then how to come up with a capitalization rate, a cap rate, and then from there, a cash on cash return once you know all the investment, once you know your monthly payment from, what their likely loan payment would be, how to calculate a cash on cash return. So those skills actually help me to this day in selling apartment buildings, which I've done. I actually sold more residential after coming to our company than I did during the whole time I was there.
Did those skills, all that information that you learned from being in commercial, help you at all with regular people who are just buying their first home? Anything like that? Because I'm sure they want to know about numbers sometimes too, not into detail, but...
Yeah, guys, that's a good question. First of all, I learned how different residential was from commercial, because I actually had a little experience in residential since I'd done this before, a little bit part-time when I was in college. And I realized, residential, when a family falls in love with a home, it's all about, hey, this is where we want to raise our family. We want to send our kids to this school. This is where we want to call home. And that's, you have something to negotiate with at that point, because it's all about making a deal work in order to help achieve dreams, family dreams. With the commercial side, it was cold, analytical, and if the numbers didn't make sense, and if they couldn't get that cash on cash return and the projected upside to make it a smart investment, it was
pure business.
Pure business. Nothing wrong with that, but that's much harder to negotiate with.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget one shopping center that we were trying to sell, a $2.5 million strip center in Torrance. And this group of investors that was looking to buy it, at the last minute, when we thought we were going to make this deal work, one of the investors said, hey, you know what? If that anchor tenant can't sign a guarantee that they're going to renew their lease after the next year when their lease is up, we want $100,000 off the price. And there was no way that tenant was going to do that, and there was no way the seller was going to lower their price after they had already come down quite a bit. And the buyers just walked. And I was just like devastated. I really needed that commission, I mean, this is around the time that I'm hoping to get $100 bills on the elevator floor. So, but in answer to your question, numbers did help a lot.
Yeah.
There are times, again, when I'm dealing with an investor who wants to buy a 4-unit or maybe a 5-unit apartment building, and
that background helps you there.
That background really helps. Really
was
does.
there a moment that you were doing both commercial and residential when you were doing the transition to more residential?
Well, over there, you couldn't do residential. And that was one thing that really frustrated me about being in commercial is this was around the early 2000s. The market was just taking off, the residential market, as you know. And I actually had some referrals for selling homes. And my manager and my team guys said, you know what, you got to refer that out to a residential guy. We just don't do that. and I was just devastated. So I couldn't do both over there. But after I
that why you
came
left?
here, that was part of the. That was actually the nail in the coffin. I left on great terms.
Yeah.
Everyone was wishing me well, and in fact they didn't want me to leave. And I ended up coming to this company, Bruce Mulhearn's company, because I had interviewed with them right before I got into commercial. Like I said, I got connected to these commercial guys, but before that, I was interviewing with this company, which was just Mulhearn Realtors, was just becoming Berkshire. Actually, it was just becoming Prudential, which we were for a few years before becoming Berkshire Hathaway. And Bruce Mulhearn and Tim Rush were amazing at follow-up. Just checking in once in a while. Hey, how are things going? And so I called them and I go, you guys have been just so amazing at follow-up. I'm actually thinking about getting into residential once and for all. Are you guys still hiring, basically? And they said, yeah, come on in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So was there a deal that changed everything for you? Either your first residential deal, maybe your 5th, 10th, whatever, that made you like, this is it. This is what I want to do. I love residential. I want to do this.
My first few deals kind of solidified that for me. At the time that I started here, I was in the Bellflower office of our company where our training center is, and they were doing a big 2-day-a-week buyer seminars. Bruce Mulhearn would put it on himself. And then when everybody was just mesmerized thinking, I can buy a home, I can buy the home of my dreams, I don't have to be a renter all my life. A lender would get them pre-approved, and then they would get brought to us realtors. And one young couple, they fell in love with homes out of all places, up in Palmdale, the Palmdale Lancaster area. And so I drove them up to Palmdale one Sunday, thinking I'll see if they really like homes up here, because if they don't seem as motivated as they verbally seem, I'm just not going to keep coming up to Palmdale. Yeah. We ended up writing offers on 4 different homes that Sunday because they were really motivated. Yeah, we didn't get anything accepted then, but we went up one more Sunday, and they fell in love with one more home. We wrote an offer on that, and we got it accepted. And that was kind of the clincher that made me think, you know what, this is exciting. This is a young family with just an infant child, and I was just so excited. I was helping them accomplish, their dreams. Another one was a young Cambodian family that also went through the buyer seminar, and they got passed to me. They didn't speak much English, but they were just the nicest people, and we just managed to communicate. And at one time, they started falling in love with new home developments out further and further east, like going out to Corona and so forth. And it got to the point where I said to them, you guys, not all these companies pay realtor commissions. I gotta say, if one of these companies decides they do want to, sell you a home, I may not be able to represent you because they may not pay me. And they said, Paul, we can pay you. We can pay you some commission. I mean, this is a young family that was buying their first home, and yet they were promising that they would pay my commission. We ended up going farther and farther, and I sold them a home in Lake Elsinore. And they had a little Cambodian restaurant like on Atlantic Avenue in Long Beach. And they decided to do that drive, but they fell in love with that home.
Why do you think that is about you, because normally buyers don't pay the realtor's commission, but what about you, that you did something with them that made them feel like, I owe Paul money, I owe him a commission, he worked hard? What was it?
Well, it wasn't a language barrier. I mean, they understood what I was saying to them. They fully understood it. That's a great question, Dusty. I'd like to think that they could tell that I really cared about them. They were such a sweet family.
So you weren't after the money or anything like that, just working hard, doing the right thing for your client made them feel like,
I was already in the business just about a year. I already had learned by that point that if you just take care of your clients, the commission's going to take care of itself. Yeah. So I just trusted that. I don't think they could see dollar signs in my eyes. I don't think they could smell that commission breath. Yeah. I really think that it was them honestly seeing that I cared about them, because I really did. They were, to this day, they're in my database, and we touch base every now and then. They were just the loveliest family, honestly. And it's no joke. It's no exaggeration to say I really love just helping people, because then the commission just takes care of itself. Yeah. It really does.
What would you say that would be your number one way you get clients today?
So I've realized that in this business, there are 2 ways to get clients: marketing and prospecting. They're 2 totally different things. Marketing is when you're making mass announcements. It could be through an email blast, a postcard blast. Some realtors do the big billboards, and bust out benches. And now over these past several years, we're turning more and more to social media, paid and unpaid social media. So that's mass announcements. Then prospecting is where you're trying to have one-on-one conversations. They could be live, face-to-face, like at a door knock or an open house, or it could be electronic, like when you're making a cold call or you're calling a lead, someone that's already in your database, or it could even be a text. It could be instant messaging. As long as you're having a live, real-time conversation and you're asking them, who do you know who wants to buy or sell a home, however brief that conversation is, that's prospecting. So I separate marketing and prospecting. So I try to have at least 1 hour a day of sheer prospecting where I'm trying to have conversations. I'm out door knocking, or if it's a weekend or maybe even a weekday, it could be an open house. And I can't control how many people come in, but if anyone comes in, that's prospecting right there.
Yeah. Would open houses be your number one source, do you think?
I would say open houses is the cornerstone of what I'm trying to do, and this is part of what I teach even in our training classes. What I do is I use open houses as a way to become known in my geographic territory. Yeah, absolutely. And then I spend about 30 minutes a day, maybe sometimes more, to do marketing, some social media, maybe an email blast.
Market that open house that you're doing?
It could be for the open house. It could be just something about the real estate industry. This is what's going on with interest rates. The market is hotter now than it was last year. And so it could be any kind of mass announcement. That's the marketing portion. So I try to do both marketing and prospecting.
Got it. So once you have these leads coming to you, whether it's from your marketing or your prospecting, how do you stay in touch with them? What's your technique to get them to eventually work with you and maybe buy a house or sell that house?
My coaching company says, and my coach and I've learned from managers that the fortune is in the follow-up. And
that's true.
I heard another realtor say not long ago that 95% of clients do not buy when you meet them. They buy at some point, maybe even a year or a few years into the future. So what I do, and sometimes, I drop the ball here and there, but my system is to have everybody into my CRM database, my electronic database, where I have what I consider my hot leads who I think are going to buy or sell within the next 60 days. That's just my barometer, 60 days. And I can't guarantee they're going to buy or sell in that time frame. I just think they are, so I put them in that class. Then the colder leads, the ones who I believe are going to buy or sell, but it's down the road, it might even be years down the road, are in another, category. And then everyone else is just in my database for just periodic checking in.
If you had someone that say they want to buy or sell in the next month, how often do you stay in touch with them during that month?
So if I know where they live, like if they're an expired listing, and I'm just getting into expireds, I know you're doing a fantastic job with expireds, you're very proactive with it. If they're an expired listing, or maybe even just someone who's a referral, someone I door knock, if I know where they live, I'm going to their home every 1 to 2 weeks and knocking on their door, just say, hey, I just wanted to give you an item. I just wanted to let you know what was going on. Yeah. One of them, exactly. It's just a touch. And if they're not home, I'll leave it at their door on purpose because I want them to see that I was there.
Yeah.
And people, it's amazing how people are so impressed with follow-up. They think that you're the best realtor in the world if all you're doing is checking in once in a while. All you're doing is your damn job, but they think that you're the best realtor in the world. And I think that's a testament to the fact that not so many people follow up effectively.
Most don't do anything.
Most don't, and they'll let a lead slip through their fingers. I'm starting to generate more and more leads now by door knocking.
Yeah,
and it could be to announce my upcoming open house or a listing I just had. And it's amazing how if you just ask a few questions, people will say, "Yeah, I'm thinking of selling my home." It just happened this past Saturday. I was telling people about a home I have in escrow. 26 days on the market, we got into escrow. And I'm doing my rounds, and this very nice lady opens the door, and I ask the first question. First of all I do is I'm giving you a flyer. I'm not here. When I see those no soliciting signs, I'll acknowledge it. I'll say, I'm not here to solicit. I just wanted to let you know about, in this case, the home really right around the corner that we were only on the market 26 days and we're under contract with a buyer.
So you still knock on the door if it says no soliciting?
Yeah, I do, because I say to them, I'm just here to give you information. Then as I'm walking away, I'm taking a few steps back. I literally have to look behind me to make sure I'm not tripping over the flower pot. It's kind of like a by the way. I go, oh yeah, by the way, who do you know who's been thinking of buying or selling? But they see my body language. It's an afterthought.
Yeah.
I'm really here to give you information. By the way, as I'm starting to step away, who do you know who's been thinking of buying or selling? And she said, I don't know anyone. All our neighbors have been here forever. And then I just threw out the follow-up question. How about you guys? When were you thinking of selling? And she goes, I think next year we're going to be selling. And I'm like, I had to like stop, like I'm already walking away. I go, oh, And then, she just opened up, well, we're going to need a home that's single story, this 2-story. We need something smaller and blah, blah, blah. Our kids, when I say blah, 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 I don't mean to minimize. We got into this great conversation. I started writing down. I go, do you mind if I just take some notes? And she goes, great. And I just started writing down what it is she's looking for. And she just started opening up about, where she works and where her husband works. So they're going to need a home that's close to the area. I was there for more than 10 minutes, just taking notes and having a conversation.
So that just shows even places that you think nothing's going to happen because of that no soliciting, it just turned into that.
Absolutely. Sometimes people will apologize about the no soliciting sign. They'll go, oh yeah, I don't mind that, it's just to keep away,
They're just people too.
Right.
No one wants to be solicited until it's the right information that they need when they need it.
You're absolutely right. And before we started this podcast, I think you and I just joked about the telemarketing calls we're starting to get on our cell phones. But honestly, if they just approach with just a quick little question of value, I don't think it would be so bad. My coach said, look, I want you to get out of your comfort zone and start phone cold calling, because honestly, that's my weak part. I like phone calling people I know, and I like cold door knocking, but I haven't done a lot of cold phone calling, which I know you're doing terrific at. You're creating a team and doing that on a regular basis. And my coach said to me, look, if you're unsure or in any way feeling insecure when you make those calls, you're doing a disservice to the people who do want to talk to you, because they do want someone to help them and they want someone assertive.
Yep. And
he said, just ask a quick question. Don't waste their time. Don't say, oh, I'm Paul Conti with Berkshire Hathaway, and they don't want to hear. Just say, hi, my name's Paul. I'm a local realtor. Are you still accepting offers for your home? Like calling stars. Yeah. And then shut up. And whatever they say next, you go with it.
Yep.
If they say no, absolutely not, all right, great. You're not here to fit a square peg into the round hole. You're just here to look for people who might say, yeah, if we can get our price, I guess we still would sell our home, something like that. And then you go with it.
It's a numbers game.
It's a numbers game. And just ask that quick question, because they don't want to hear a sales pitch. They're just thinking, oh God, a salesperson, I want to get off the phone. But you ask them that valid question, are you still accepting offers for your home? And then you stop and they just hear silence, they're going to say something.
Yeah.
Whatever they say, you just go with it.
What motivates you to keep going out there and knocking on these doors? I'm sure there's constant rejection, constant people saying, no, I don't want to do anything, but what keeps you going back out there?
Honestly, what keeps me doing it is those times like just this past Saturday when it works really well. And it just reminds me, oh my God, you would not think that knocking on a multi-million-dollar home's door would result in something, but every maybe 15 doors that someone answers, there's someone on the other side who actually needs some help and is willing to. In many cases, I'll say to them, do you mind if I stay in touch with you? Because remember, it's all about the follow-up. They're not usually looking to buy now. And I'll say, do you mind if I stay in touch and send you things from time to time? You said you're not going to buy or you're not going to sell your home for maybe 2 years, but I'm still going to be in the business in 2 years. Do you mind if I stay in touch? And they'll say, yeah, sure. Now it's all about the follow-up. So that cold door knock of a multi-million-dollar home actually will pay off. Now it's up to me to follow up.
Yeah.
But the lead generation actually works.
No,
so
you're absolutely right.
That's what keeps me motivated.
It's that I have a perfect example of what you just described too as well too. It's my first $2.3 million sale. I was just excited that I got a lead, that someone was willing to talk to me at that level. Yeah. And what happened was I'm bad at follow-up all the time. I forget sometimes. I don't remember them. I forget to put them in the database or something. But eventually there's some things about some people that trigger with me that I want to follow up with them.
Right.
And this person, because it was a big deal for me at the time, and still is a big deal, $2.3 million, is their budget was 1.5 at the time. I showed them one place, and they called me off of one of my ads on Christmas.
Wow.
And, they didn't call me actually. They sent me an email wanting to know more information about a home.
So they're motivated.
Yeah. And I thought, Christmas, we got to get out there. My partner Nick at the time, we were at Christmas at our family party. We ran outside, said, we got to call this person right now. Happened to be the wrong number.
Oh.
So we're like, of course, it's the wrong number.
Of course.
And so we emailed him back and said, we called this number, repeated the number that he said, and it didn't go through. And he emailed back right away, and it was just one number off.
Oh, jeez.
So he sent us his wrong number by one number.
He's that excited, probably. He typed it wrong.
Yep. Called him back, and right then he answered, and he said, yeah, we want to see this one house on the beach in Sunset Beach. And we showed it to him, and it turns out it wasn't for them. But at the time, he had a Tesla. And when Nick and I, my partner, we were inside the house, and it was a nice house. Water view. We wanted to film a little video while we were there. Might as well. So we were in the house for about 45 minutes. Didn't think anything about anything. And then we were done. We walked out, and as soon as we walked downstairs, they were parked still in front of the garage.
Oh my God.
And luckily they were still out there, and we was like, what are you guys still doing here? And he said, the way Teslas work, I didn't know at the time, I didn't have my Tesla yet, that you could start the car if your key's nearby.
Right.
So he had his key in his garage at home. So he was able to get into his car and drove all the way from Newport Beach to Sunset Beach without his key. So he was stuck there.
Wow.
And at the time, he didn't know that you could start the car with your phone.
Sure.
And so he was there waiting for his friend to go to his house and bring him the key. And during that time, we were talking. And we just built a little connection, and one thing led to another. We kept following up with him because we thought this is a big deal. We want to follow up. And we started showing him a new community in the Surfside Colony. And that's where we broke into there. And that community is amazing. And they didn't know about it. We didn't know about it.
Wow.
And showed them 2 to 3 places in there. And there's one place that popped up that was $800,000 above their budget. And said, let's just take a look at it. And we did, and they fell in love. We wrote an offer and got it.
They made it work, huh?
And to this day, we still keep in touch. We go over there sometimes. I go over there all the time. It's built quite a relationship with them. They're going to trust me to sell their other property someday. I know he's thinking about selling one of his other Newport Beach houses because he still owns that other one. And so it's just a strong connection. We're friends on Facebook.
It's amazing, and I see your marketing, your social media marketing. I know that's an area that you've been really working. You've done some good video on homes there.
Yeah.
Maybe I actually saw that one that you're talking about.
You probably did. I like that area. It just makes me feel better when you're in an area that you like doing stuff that you want to do. It's just your videos come out better. Everything just comes out better. You come off more confident, having fun, versus an area that you don't care about or don't know anything about. But still, I still got to go all in everywhere you go. But just something about the water keeps me wanting to come back.
It's important to like the area, to really feel a connection with the geographic area you choose for yourself. I'm a big believer that realtors probably do better, in my opinion, absolutely do better when they have a geographic area that they focus on. And if you get referred out of that area, that's great, but that's where you're putting your energy, and it's got to be an area that you like, that you feel a connection to.
Absolutely true. I know when I'm selling in an area that I know a lot of information about or I really like, it comes off just that much stronger. It comes off better because that Surfside Colony home, this is a $2.3 million buyer. I didn't want to come off as an idiot, so we did a lot of research.
Yes.
We learned about the parking, the rules, the HOA, everything in the community, stock corporation, everything that you need to know about everything. So when we went to that community and showed them that house, we were experts.
Wow.
And it just came off that way that we've been doing deals there our whole time. They had no idea that was our first deal there, which I'm sure they do now. We talked about it, and but that was our first deal in Surfside Colony, and it just came off as you guys know what you're talking about.
Because you had a passion, and it led you to want to do the homework. That's so cool.
Absolutely. So I have one more question for you, Paul, and we'll open it up to the audience, and they'll have some questions for you as well too. There has to be something about this business that you love. What's your absolute favorite thing about real estate?
It's easy to say. One of the easiest things I could say, and it's very true, is handing, especially first-time buyers, their keys, to their home. I got to do that on Thanksgiving Day one year. We closed escrow the day before Thanksgiving on a young family buying their first home, and we met at the home on Thanksgiving Day, the day after we closed escrow, and I got to hand them the keys on the day of the year that is all about giving thanks. They're getting their piece of the American dream. That is absolutely my favorite thing, but that's such an easy thing to say. It's like asking someone, when your favorite day was, and it's like the day my kid was born type of thing. But aside from giving someone their keys, it's just knowing that I'm really helping to create the middle class and helping that middle class to move up. And then when you're dealing with a multi-million-dollar buyer, you're still helping to create that middle class because it's all a whole, trickle-down effect.
Yeah.
So everyone who buys a multi-million-dollar home is creating jobs for all these working class and middle class people that are involved in the sale and the move-in and getting everything ready in that home. I mean, you're really stimulating the economy. You're really pulling up all these people and creating and encouraging all these jobs of working class, middle class people. And I honestly think that we know that the most important way to build wealth is by owning real estate, especially your own home.
Absolutely.
And we're probably stimulating the American economy more than I think any other industry. I really believe that.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Paul. You've been an amazing guest here at Property Cousin HQ for our podcast number 3. It's been quite an honor.
Thank you. It's been a real honor for me too, Dusty. Appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Paul. So we're going to open it up to the audience real quick for some questions. And so our first question is going to be coming from Gabby Conti. She is going to be asking just a question for you, Paul.
Sure.
Hi, Paul.
Hi.
I've been very fortunate to attend a couple of your office meetings, and I just wanted to ask you, how do you balance being a manager and a realtor at the same time?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, Gabby, and it's honestly my single biggest challenge right now, time management. My coach told me, and I'm not quite there yet, but he told me, look, dude, you gotta be militant. That was the word he used. You gotta be militant about your time.
Right.
Have your time blocks on your calendar. You're always gonna have unscheduled interruptions. You gotta find that time to say to people, hey, I'm so sorry, let me get to you at 2 o'clock. Is that a good time?
Right.
And he said something along the lines of, unless it's a 911 call from your family coming in, nothing interrupts that.
Right.
An escrow emergency, whatever, just I'll be with you later. Let the call go to voicemail, ask the people politely to come back later. That's the only way.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Great question.
Our next question is coming from Cindy, a realtor here in Cerritos.
Paul.
Hi.
My question is, what advice can you give someone who's new in the business, who might be, struggling or wanting to figure out like which way to go? When you come into this business, sometimes it feels really lonely.
Right.
So what advice would you give out?
Fantastic. Okay, so regarding the loneliness part, because I deal with this myself and I talk with agents in my office, it's important to have an accountability partner who you can at least do a quick text with, maybe in the morning and in the afternoon or early evening, to say, I'm gonna do this today and I did this today. What did you do? So that check-in helps to deal with the loneliness part, because it reminds you you're not out there alone and you are accountable to someone. We all know that if you have an accountability partner to go to the gym at 6 in the morning, you're getting there and you're only going there because you know your accountability partner is going to be there and you don't want to let them down. Little do you know they're thinking the exact same thing. They don't want to be there either. They're only going to not let you down. So if you know that at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. you're going to have that check-in with your accountability partner, even if it's just a quick text, unless you're just going to lie through your teeth, hopefully we're all people with integrity here, you got to say something. You got to say, I talked to 10 people today. I sent out a social media post and I made this many calls and I talked to this many people. Nothing came of it, but at least I had these conversations.
Right.
So that's regarding the loneliness part. The other part for like a new person, I would say focus. We just spoke a moment ago about having a geographic territory. Some people don't want to focus because they're afraid they're not going to get any other business. So if you say you're the Cerritos expert or the Long Beach expert, you're afraid I won't get any deals anywhere else. And I learned in a business networking group I used to be with, if you're like the chiropractor who says, hey, refer me anyone who's got a back. No one can really think of who to refer to you because we all have backs. So you're afraid to say something in specifically because then people won't think of you for someone else. But if you specialize and you say, hey, who do you know who's got that sciatica that runs down the leg, or maybe a cramp in their neck? People will be more likely to say, oh yeah, my cousin last week said they have that, or that happened to me the other day. Now you know who to refer to. But if you say anyone who's got a back, I can't grasp onto that. I don't know who to refer.
You don't make a connection.
Exactly. You need to make a connection. The best connections are made by the people who specialize. It could be a geographic area. It could be a type of product, a type of real estate, demographic, millennials, maybe veterans, first-time buyers. But when you specialize, you will get other referrals. The other business will come to you because they're thinking of you for this thing. And if you think about all big brands of products, they all specialize.
Right.
We think of them for something in particular, and they're going to get enough business. They're going to get all the other peripheral business too. So don't be afraid of specializing.
Thank you.
Okay, so as a new agent, when you were first starting off, did you experience people telling you like you seem young or you sound young, and like what do you say to that?
Yeah, that is a big thing. In this business now, I think the younger you are, the better. I really do. People value energy, and they tie youth to energy. So now, don't get me wrong. You could be at any age and still have energy, but people assume that younger people are energetic. In this business, the most important thing is energy and enthusiasm more than knowledge. It really is. So the only way to get that knowledge, which is the only missing factor for a new person in the business, the only way to get that knowledge is to just get out there and do it. I would say if you specialize, like we were talking about a moment ago, if you specialize in a geographic area, just like Dusty with that $2.3 million home in the Surfside Colony, he became the area expert. If you just delve into an area, you get to know it well. Go preview property. If it's an area that does weekly previews, like the Friday either caravan or marketing meetings and open houses, go to those religiously, network with the agents. You're going to become an expert, just like Dusty became an expert of that Seaside Colony. So again, back to the other thing, if you aren't afraid of specializing and you get known and you get to know that area, you're going to overcome that factor pretty quickly. And then as they see that energy, that's enthusiastic, and that's infectious. They're going to feed off of that.
Right.
That's why.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, this has been podcast number 3 with Paul Conti, an extraordinary realtor, entrepreneur, and such an inspiration. So thank you so much for being here, Paul. It's been an honor.
Thank you, Dusty. It's been my honor.
Perfect. So make sure to subscribe. Find us on Property Cousins on whatever platform you use to search for this podcast. We're going to tag Paul Conti's info as well, too, so you can find him on Instagram, Facebook, wherever you guys want to add him, because Paul is an amazing entrepreneur. So thank you. Subscribe, leave your comments, and let's do this.
All right. See y'all.